But anyway.
No, yeah. So I'm going to ask you something actually. Like, I know you've probably got a few things on your mind, but okay. So considering our current environment, does it set us up well to navigate that balance between having local and global control, or does it? So one of the things I wonder is that at times, I guess, as a society, we fluctuate between the two. And some nations obviously are, almost to the point of full sort of global power where they control their citizens to the nth degree, and other countries appear to be a lot more freer. But do you feel that there's a shift in one towards one or the other? And if so, do you think that's a result of our system, or is there some other factors that play of, if we see that spectrum, ideally we probably want to be sort of somewhere in the center where you're getting some input, but you don't get full control of input. And then we're getting some global controls that help us get to some expectations we want collectively. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think you very aptly put it that some countries appear to be freer because appearance seems to be the way it is, especially after the last couple of years. That's how it feels. Where to begin with this? So I think the way I see it, and the reason I like the idea of global control, and local control, sorry, not global. And the reason I wanted to do this topic is actually, it's from a long time ago, this kind of thought came in my mind, and it was back in uni. So that was maybe like 6-7 years ago when we learnt about swarm behavior. And anyone who doesn't know about swarm behavior, I highly recommend go and look it up. Just watch a video on YouTube or something. There'll be really cool examples. It's basically, if you think of like ants or bees, the idea is that each individual ant, each individual bee, they make their own decisions. There are specific roles, like there are like worker ants, there are queen ant that have specific functions within the society, community, population, whatever the word would be. But for the majority of it, they all have just this simple rule set that they operate on, and they only interact with their local environment. So no one's sending them or calling them via cell phone, telling them, hey, worker ant, go over here, there's food over here. No, the way it works is that they each individually just walk around the environment. At some point, I'm talking about ants here, at some point, one of them will run across some food. It will start taking that food back to the nest. As it goes back and forth, it's leaving these pheromones, it's creating a trail. As it goes back and forth, that trail gets stronger and stronger. More ants will run into it just randomly, hit that pheromone trail and go, hey, this is a pretty strong trail. And they'll start following it back and forth. And pretty soon you've got a line of ants running down your hallway trying to get from one end to the other because there might be food there or something. But that's like how they work. And no one told them to do that. No one said to the ants, hey, all you ants, go here, grab that food. It's all based on them interacting with their local environment. And if you look at ants and you look at the structures that they make, like if you've ever seen, how they've got like glass plates and then you see all the paths that they make and the tunnels that they make, all that again is based off of local behavior that each individual ant is interacting with their environment. No one's telling them how to do that. No one's telling them put a school here, put a hospital here, whatever. It's all just they're interacting with their own environment based on a similar rule set. And what I'm trying to get at here is even with that simple control structure, each individual person sensing their local environment, interacting with their local environment, even that can result in really complex behavior when you zoom out and you look at it from like the group level. And so what I'm trying to say here with humans is a lot of the time I feel that we desire globalized control because there's a certain level of uncertainty in saying that each individual go about and interact with the environment based off of, your own principles or a collective set of principles that we all have. I think that's the key that's missing. And that's the reason we don't do it, is that we don't have a collective set of principles. I think if we did, it'd be a lot easier to have localized control. But I think, once again, the main thing is that we currently desire this globalized control, or we look to this globalized control because there's a certain false sense of certainty in it. Like we think that, they have an understanding of all the pieces on the chessboard. They know what to do with that. And again, they have the same intent as us, or they desire the same outcome as us, which may not necessarily be true. Whereas if we can get to this point where we trust each other enough, we have this comfort with uncertainty to say, yes, let each individual make their own decisions, and then we just let it happen. And then after that, zoom out, you'll see this complex behavior start to emerge without anyone centralized, any central planning, nothing. I mean, if you go back in time and you look at the history of money and how like gold was chosen to be money, it's naturally emergent. It isn't, and no one dictated that gold should be used as money. It's just naturally emergent because people were interacting with their environment and they figured that, this is the best way to do it. And then it eventually spreads. You zoom out and you see, okay, now everyone's using gold.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think the ants is a good example. I do believe that we have a desire for that global governance, and I believe that's probably something evolutionary or biologically, because we are pack. I do believe we're pack creatures. So I kind of wonder, like I'm trying to think of a really solo creature. I think shark. Oh, maybe not all sharks, but possibly like a shark is a solo creature. It's a predator. It basically doesn't care too much maybe about its peers. It's after food, and it will make its own decisions. And it's got the biologic makeup in order to do those. So whereas fish or birds or ants or humans, I would put in that category, are pack animals. So we're always looking to others to see how we survive, I guess. But I think what's neat in what you were saying there is that if you use the ant analogy, and it's hard to really understand exactly what the ants are, how they're communicating or what they're doing in that point in time. But I think what you, I guess, highlighting there to me was that biologically, those ants, I guess, when they're born or whatever, they kind of know their role internally. There's a biological makeup that they've got everything inside and they know their role. And so left to their own natural devices, they will do what is best for themselves, but also their community. So like you said there, is each, some of them have got roles. So obviously the queen was born a queen. The soldiers were born, I guess, soldier. I don't know, someone determines that or whatever. But I guess once they have that role, they sort of naturally know, okay, this is what my role is to do, and therefore I just follow that intuition to get the solution. And I guess maybe in the current environment, that freedom for each individual is not really there. It seems like we are not secure enough, whether that's mentally or other forms, to allow that level of uncertainty to occur. And so we keep putting more and more rules on to try and control our environment, and it keeps going in, I guess, in an opposite direction where each individual is now more and more constrained to make their own decisions that, in hindsight, given freedom, would probably, for most individuals, would probably make a good decision not only for themselves, for others. And so if you constrain them in those situations, then they're unable to contribute, and then it's almost like a segregation. Where people aren't able to contribute to their own outcomes, and so therefore you're not getting the natural value from each individual. Yeah,
the thing with the ants as well is to consider is that, like you said, they're born with this intuition. This is how I interact with my environment. I mean, we don't know this for sure, but it's unlikely that they're thinking, the way I'm behaving is going to benefit the community, is going to benefit everyone in the ant colony. That's the word. We don't know for sure again, but we don't know I don't think that they're thinking that the way I'm acting, the way I'm interacting with my environment is going to benefit the colony. It just naturally emerges that benefits the colony because that's how it survives. Like if you look at evolution, you would assume that, okay, whatever actions, whatever way that these creatures act that will maintain their survival across time, that is what will carry out, that's what it'll evolve. And so similarly with humans, and yeah, we do need to cooperate, but that's just an emergent behavior that will happen, that cooperation, because the ones that don't, the ones that go out on their own, the ones that try and cause trouble within the group, they won't survive over time. And so the ones that act based on their own impulses, intuitions that will survive over time actually do benefit other people. And I think when thinking about it, when you were talking, I think what goes on is that we don't have that trust in other people that the way that they will act will benefit others. We think that they'll be selfish, but they'll be selfish in a way that is at a cost to other people. Like, again, we can have a conversation about this another time about, is selfishness actually bad, and does it always come at a cost to others? I don't think it does. But what I'm saying here is that we are presented with the worst of people the majority of the time. Turn on the news. At least 90% of what that news is telling you is that people are horrible. People make bad decisions. People hurt one another. People are trying to kill you. People are trying to... It's putting this seed in our mind that, okay, if we allow someone else to make their own decisions, they're going to make a decision that comes at a cost to me. When that, I don't think, is necessarily true. I don't think people inherently are attempting to hurt people. People left to their own devices, left to make their own decisions, as long as they're not vying for survival, as long as they have enough food, as long as they have a shelter, whatever, I don't think their actions are, even if selfish, are to spite someone else, are to hurt someone else. And I think that's the biggest problem, and that's the reason we are looking to global, and I think that's the reason people are going more and more to centralized authority, is that we are whether through intentionally or unintentionally, we are starting to see people as malevolent, as evil, as they will choose to act in a way that will harm me unless someone else with authority and power tells them how to act.